And basically it was just a couple of windows looking in on it. It was an old pub, but it was the internet of the punks. It was how we found out where the gigs were happening and what days. You could go there any day of the week and get news on just about anything. It was like a real-life magazine, you know.
Yeah.
It was gossip.
Yeah.
Gossip town, and you get drunk at the same time. And if you didn't want to go to a gig, you could sit there all night and just get smashed.
So it's the sort of place you could turn up and you'll know at least 10 people sitting there.
Easily. It was a great little pub. They had a funny little trick. They had a raised floor of about 3 inches, and it used to catch everybody with jugs and glasses and trays full of glasses. So if you were sitting anywhere near it, you get showered with beer somewhere in the night. It was a great old pub, but they tore it down for the Maya Centre, I think.
Yeah.
I don't even think the facade's there anymore.
Yeah. You're telling me outside that Leftovers always had troublesome gigs, always some sort of trouble.
It was like once the law found out about it, you know, it picked up our name because we weren't actually the Leftovers. Excuse me, the fucking Leftovers is how we were referred to.
Yeah.
And when we put posters up, you know, we kept it fairly tame, just with the Leftovers. But once the police found out, they would come and they'd find ways of getting into the gigs, and with all sorts of camouflage and violence to get into the gigs, so they could bust people for drugs or whatever and drag them out, or underage drinking, or you know, whatever. More often than not, any money that we made would go to bailing somebody out. Even if it was one person that we could afford, you know, we'd try and do it, you know. I'd never heard of any other band doing that before. So
no, that's pretty awesome.
If we weren't famous for music, we were famous for doing that. I hope somebody out there is listening who we did bail out, you know, because it was a pretty tough time back then, you know. They were allowed to punch, kick, verbal. Yeah, there was a mob called the Special Branch. They used to go around and photograph people on the street. They, you know, saunter past in their prowlers and take photographs. Actually, I don't know how many times I got clicked, but it was so obvious, you know. They didn't care whether they were obvious or not.
What were they doing? Putting together files on people?
Yeah. You know, they'd hunt your head after that. If they found you at a gig, they'd take you away and bruise you a bit, you know. And you know, people used to go missing for days. It was just insanity.
People don't realise, I suppose, how safe punk rock gigs are these days.
Yeah, no idea. On top of that, you know, I was paying off all these venues and all the equipment that was being destroyed.
By you or the crowds and the police?
See, the crowds used to just go off. They'd riot as soon as they knew there was a copper in the joint, which there invariably was. They'd come in, you could always tell by their boots, and they'd come in with Hawaiian shirts or these really, really rat baggy bands, like, look, I can't even remember their names, like... let's just say ABBA. They come in with an ABBA t-shirt.
Thinking that they were blending in?
Thinking they were blending in. And yeah, it's just insane. They'd throw bricks from the outside into the gig so they could get access for vandalism, and that's when all the balls started rolling. You know, I did gigs at Caxton Street, Hamilton Hall, Paddington, where they'd actually cordon off the street, and with hundreds of police and dozens of cars and divvy wagons, as we used to call them in those days, or just a panel van with a cage in the back.
Yeah.
And everything was sharp in them, so you couldn't really get comfortable, you know. Yeah, the good old days. There were no such thing. But we're gonna have a good time on Sunday, remembering it all.
We're talking to Ed Wreckage from Leftovers right now about the gig Return to White Chairs on Sunday at the Prince of Wales at Nunda, and about the Leftovers in general.
We tried to be hard working, but it was just impossible to get gigs. Promoters wouldn't touch us.
I was going to say, yeah.
They knew there was trouble following us. It just became too hard for us, and the only way we could sort of extract ourselves from this myth that we were heavy dudes and watch out, we'll kill you. It went all the way to Sydney, Melbourne. We didn't get that far. We got to Sydney and we were turfed out of our first gig. They just saw us and just freaked. All the money that we could pull together to get all our gear down there was just enough to get there. No money for food or anything, and we had a roadie to take care of as well. And
was the punk scene really competitive or hostile? Or?
It was, but I couldn't understand why. We were trying to give people something new to enjoy, and they just turned around and bit us.
Yeah.
I was paying off gigs into the mid-'80s.
Was it because they wanted their own band to be more successful or something?
Well, it seemed so. We played... The big gala was the Grand Hotel in Sydney. I think it was like Easter '77, if my memory takes me back that far. And we were doing our set-up and sound check, and the three other bands that were there at the same time decided that we weren't welcome. We couldn't believe the capacity of what they'd done. The posters everywhere, big, huge, giant posters of the Leftovers all over the place. From Brisbane, the Leftovers, blah blah blah, the Grand Hotel, one weekend only, that sort of thing. And we didn't even get to play one song. It was just on dusk. We got beaten up and they egged my drums, they smashed the guitars, hurled them out the back door.
Yeah.
Our cabbie actually pulled up and saved us from being beaten to death.
Yeah.
I was only out of hospital about 2 weeks. I'd been in there for a couple of months after a ruptured spleen through a fight and broken ribs and internal injuries.
In Brisbane?
In Brisbane. And this was our big get up and go again, and it just turned to crap. It was competitive, everyone was fighting. It's just wrong.
How big was the punk scene in Brisbane in the late 70s? Like, how many people would turn up to a show?
When we turn up to a show, it could be anything from 10 to 150. We did a gig with the Survivors at Hamilton Hall, and
how much did it cost to get into a show?
$2 tops. You could sometimes get in for $1, and most of the time it was one of the girlfriends on the door, and a lot of the time it'd be friends. It's come on in anyway. Just watch yourself, you might get injured. But it wasn't always like that. We had some good times too. I've got to tell the truth here. Yeah, unfortunately, the history of the band ended up in tragedy. A lot of the members have passed away through various means, natural and unnatural. But we tried.
Yeah. So who's in the band for Sunday?
In the band now is Michael Gilmore from Pineapples from the Dawn of Time. He's taken Warren's position as the singer, and he's doing a really good job of it. My eldest son, Wreckage, he's playing bass. It's in his DNA. He knows these songs better than I do. And Graham Hutchie, he's playing drums. And that's the Leftovers as such. And we're playing all the original songs. As many as we can get out in 30 minutes, and we're going to push it real hard. And so I hope everybody enjoys the day, and we shall see what happens next.